Hello and good day to you all. My name is Marlies. Welcome to my channel. Today I will make a fabric envelope for you. This video is part of a swap that I did for Artymaze, so I'm going to work with similar materials because my all-over package will look the same. That means that I'm going to use this paper again. It is an old newspaper that I worked with throughout this whole project. For the fabric envelope, I'm going to create multiple layers, and this piece of paper is just one of those layers. The fabric that I'm using is just a regular white cotton out of old sheets, and I'm going to process some mediums on top of it. And I started off with some distress ink, the sprays, brushed corduroy and ground espresso. This process is mostly about playing around, so just spray and maybe drip water down your colors, put it on your craft sheet, drag your fabric through it. Just play around a little bit. Playing around is for getting better knowledge about your mediums and colors, how they react, how they work, how they do not work. So it's mostly about gaining some information. I am also making sure that I'm drying my fabric in between using the mediums because not every medium will have a great reaction on watered down or humid fabric. A great way to embellish your fabric is to use a stamp set. The stamp set that I'm using right here is from Holtz and it is called Documented. And I'm going to stamp this stamp set with waterproof archival ink, and that is the reason why I have my archival ink ground espresso in front of me. The reason that I'm using a waterproof ink is because I do not know my next layers and if there is any water or drips involved, and if I choose like maybe a distress ink, they will be activated by water and the archival ink isn't. So that is the reason why I choose this ink in different kind of colors. My favorite and most go-to archival inks are ground espresso, vintage photo, black soot, cobalt and red geranium. I am placing these stems mostly along the sides because I already know up front that there will be layers in the middle to create the envelope. And I will just keep stamping and stamping along all sides until most areas are filled up with stamps. I want the fabric to be a little bit more sturdy so that my envelope will not hang a little bit limp. So I'm going to add some white gesso and I'm just going to apply it with a brayer. I am pressing down the brayer slightly just to see the effect of that. If you like some more, then you can press even harder, but I'm not going to begin full force. I want this envelope to exist out of multiple layers of materials. So we have had the fabric that we just created, the piece of newspaper that we have, and now I have a piece of chiffon in my hands. And I'm going to cut into the chiffon and just tear some bits and pieces and make some loose strips and gaps. I also want to work on the newspaper a little bit more, so I got out some distress ink, the vintage photo, and I'm just going to blend it into the paper and also the edges. Just drag a little bit more ink to the inside of the papers, and then you can make the choice to leave it as is, or maybe spray it with a little bit of water and give it some water drops to make it, to activate the distress ink. In this phase of creating the envelope, I'm going to think about how I'm going to adhere everything together, all the different kind of materials. Am I going to glue it or stitch it? I am going for some stitching. I will crumple up some pieces of paper and pull some of the chiffon over it or underneath, and then just do a running stitch or a zigzag stitch. I did not stitch everything in one go, I just did it step by step. Also a beautiful thing about the chiffon is when you put a lighter to the edges, it will melt a little bit and crinkle. I also found some strips of cheesecloth that I had laying around. You can also choose for the Tim Holtz mummy cloth and maybe color it with a distress ink. And it's perfectly fine to put it in between the layers and stitch it along. The strips of cheesecloth can be put underneath the layers, but you can also play along and put a piece under and pull a piece on top of the top layer. It can be very messy, that is not a problem. I like messy. It does not have to be perfect. So for now I have two pieces that I would like to glue together. We have the bottom piece, the fabric that we decorated, and we have the top piece, the paper and chiffon. I would like to adhere them with some bookbinder's glue. The glue that is on here is quite a lot, so make sure if you would like to recreate this envelope that the drying time will take, at least 24 hours. If it's not dry by then, just make sure to dry it with your heat tool, because when there is still moist left, you will get some mold. After the drying time, I can fold this envelope into the right shape. So I have my flap, the top flap, and I am going to create this bottom flap. Just make sure to crease those folds very well. And what I did see on the top flap is that I have some leftover fabric, and I would like to tear that off. It's too much for my liking. And I'm also going to tear some corners and some gaps to make it even more aged. The easiest way to close this envelope is to use a sewing machine and stitch a running stitch on the left and on the right side of the envelope. If you do not have a sewing machine, maybe you can do hand stitching. Now let's go further and create some kind of closure. I found this big button, a vintage button, and one of the clocks, the circle clocks from Tim Holtz. And I would like it to be on a piece of fabric that is just slightly a little bit wider. The embellishment, the button and the circle clock alone on this piece of fabric is a little bit too boring to my liking, so I would like to create a layered effect. And because I already have some blues in this project, I tore off a piece of blue cardstock, and on top of that I have a strip of Tim Holtz paper which also contains some blue tones. The torn edges are already rough, but you can even make that rougher by applying the paper distressor on the sides and just scrape along the sides. Underneath the blue strip, I also found some leftover pieces of the cheesecloth, and I would like to add them and just let them stick out a little bit. I stacked up the fabric and the cheesecloth. I prepared my papers with some ink, brownish ink, and now it is time to glue the papers together. I will do that with the Distress Collage medium and just do it roughly, because later on you will also see that I will do a running stitch along the sides. Before gluing or stitching down any of the embellishments, I will prepare them. This is one of the Tim Holtz package gauge dials, and I will prepare them with my paper distresser and roughen up all edges. Of course, I am also going to apply some of the brownish ink, in this case ground espresso. And in the back you can see my vintage button that will go on top. I want to adjust the button too, so it will match the brown and blue tones. To make it matching, I got out some of the blue paints that I have, faded jeans and prize ribbon. Just put a little dot on your craft sheet and rub your one of your fingers in there. Any excess you can get rid of, because you only need a little bit of the paint, and just rub it onto the button. The distress paint that I just added is the prize ribbon, and I'm going to repeat the same step with the other color, the faded jeans. I will adhere the button and the gauge dial together with a needle and a thread, and I will do that in the same manner when you would like to add a button to a piece of clothing. After cutting off excess thread, I am going to put some bookbinder's glue on the back of the embellishment, and I will glue it onto the fabric because I want the inside of the fabric to be free of any bulks of threads, because I'm using some Velcro as a closure. I will put one side of the Velcro underneath the embellishment, then I will put the other side on top of that, get some of the sticky ends off, and then push it down, and you will have your second piece exactly in the right spot. Only thing left to do is fill up this envelope with all kind of goodies for Andrea to play with, because this envelope was a part of my swap with Artymaze. This was it for today's video. I hope you like my content, got some inspiration out of it, and when you do, please like, subscribe or comment down below. You can also support my work and become a patron of mine or visit my little coffee shop where I sell some digital kits. Thank you for spending some time on my channel. I really appreciate it. Have a great day!